You are watching Access LaPorte County Channel 97. Coming up next is the January 16th meeting of the Michigan City Board of Cemetery Trustees. You can find more information for this meeting at www.accesslaportecounty.org.
Okay, here we go. You're opening up the agenda for the Cemetery Board of Trustees dated January 16th, 2025. This is the call to order. We're now calling for a roll call from Roxanne.
Davis Bush.
Present.
Bernadette Demke. Present. Renee Bauer.
Present.
Stephen Janis.
Here.
Vera Gaston. Pastor Dennis Carroll.
Here.
And Kat Houchins.
Present.
So we're discussing one right now. She's just running late.
Okay.
So,
Present. We do have a quorum.
yes.
We'll go for an election of officers since this is January. I have to mention that the mayor does have a recommendation to the council to extend my appointments to the cemetery board until January 1st, 2029, as it expires at the end of the month. But we do need a recommendation for president.
I recommend Davis Bush for president. Second.
Excellent. We'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any negatives? Good. I am now president again. Okay, we're going for vice president. We need anyone that makes any recommendations for vice president.
Who's vice president right now?
Me.
Well, I nominate Renee Bauer for vice
I
president.
second. I can't help to second that.
Excellent. Any further nominations? None? As so, we'll vote on Renee for vice president. All in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. Any negatives? Good. Renee is now the vice president. We're asking now for recommendations for secretary. Any nominations?
I
Go ahead.
nominate Bernadette Demke for secretary.
I second that.
Any further nominations? Excellent. We'll vote on that for Bunny, for secretary. All in favor?
Aye.
Any negatives? Welcome, Bunny. We're accepting Roxanne as our almost permanent recorder. No complaints? No questions?
No.
Good. She is it. Okay, we're good. We can work on to approval of minutes.
I move we accept the minutes as printed.
I did present a few changes to Denise that will go into the minutes. One was just a name correction, spelling, and the other was just an addition to my comment about the $200 chapel fee.
Okay.
How I came up with that, so that will be added to it.
Okay, well, accept the motion to accept with revisions the minutes of December 12th.
And I can't Houchins second that.
Excellent. We'll vote on accepting the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Any negatives? Good. Minutes are approved as presented. We're working on the financial report. Our good friends at Horizon.
Thank you very much. As we always do, let's start with page 1. At the top of the summary, that summary page 1, we'll look at the permanent maintenance Greenwood account. The account was up 0.29% for the month and 3.34% for the year. Next, we'll take a look at the permanent maintenance Swan Lake account. That account was up 0.30% for the month and 3.68% year-to-date. In the extension fund, the account was up 0.28% for the month and up 3.29% year-to-date. And finally, with respect to the merchandise and commissions fund account, the account was up 0.30% for the month and up 4.00% year-to-date. Making our way on to page 2. The account details with respect to the permanent maintenance Greenwood account. The money market is currently yielding 4.41%, which is down from last month's yield of 4.55%. Mutual funds overall yield is at 3.43%, which is down from last month's yield of 3.46%, and the overall yield in the account is at 3.77%, which is down from last month's yield of 3.83%. Turning now to page 3, the permanent maintenance Swan Lake account. The mutual funds overall yield is at 3.52%, which is even with respect to yield of last month, which was at 3.52%. The overall yield in the account is 4.06%, which is down from last month's yield of 4.16%. Turning now to the extension fund on page 4. The mutual funds overall yield is 3.57%, which is down from last month's yield of 3.61%, and the overall yield in the account is at 3.87%, which is down from last month's yield to 3.96%. Finally, on page 5, the merchandise fund. The mutual funds overall yield is at 3.55%, which is down from last month's yield of 3.62%, and the overall yield in the account is at 4.20%, which is down from last month's yield of 4.32%. And having examined these records, I will now turn things over to Brad, who will make some comments about market situation.
Thank you, Mayor. Intermediate interest rates have decreased a little bit over the past few weeks since our last meeting. Nothing dramatic. Been some disagreement, but the market right now is pricing in 1 or 2 cuts in 2025 as far as the Fed, cutting the Fed funds rate. As Aaron mentioned, the money market yield was about 4.41 as of the end of December. It's come down a little bit more. It's about 4.3 right now as of today. And CD and Treasury rates out to 5 years are all in the low 4% range as well. So really, money market, short-term CDs, 3-year CDs, 5-year CDs, roughly in the low 4s to mid 4% range. So it's kind of flat, across the board as far as the curve there. That money market yield, we expect that to be pretty stable around that 4.3, maybe 4.25 for the foreseeable future. Unless we do see some type of surprise interest rate cut. Right now, they're talking about maybe that we might see a cut in May or June, but nothing in the next couple of months here. CD interest rates again around 4.25 for 3 and 6 months, and about 4.4 out to 5 years. So right now, the accounts that we're managing, we're still using that ladder strategy where we invest, say a 6-month, a 1-year, 18-month, 2-year, and go out as far as we're comfortable with, taking into account the client's growth and goals and things like that. The base case right now for the economy remains a soft landing. The U.S. economy is expected to grow in 2025, but at a slower pace than it did last year. Some risk case scenarios include potential resurgence of inflation, and we'll wait to see how the potential policy shifts of the new administration affect the economy, such as tariffs, immigration policy, etc. So that's kind of where we're at right now. I'll look to any questions or comments.
As we have a new administration comes in, Nobody knows what's gonna happen in the next 3 weeks, even before Memorial Day, even though they promise everything through the administration on what's gonna happen with the financial markets. So we're just gonna have to go with the flow.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. And even though some of the policies of the new administration are potentially being telegraphed and they say, we're gonna do this, we're gonna do that, even if those do come into play, we don't know how that really is gonna trickle down and affect the economy over time. So yeah, exactly, we have to kind of wait and see.
Excellent. Okay. Do we have a motion to approve the financial report as presented by the good gentleman from Horizon?
So moved.
Second.
Excellent. We'll vote. All in favor of accepting?
Aye.
Any negatives? Good. Motion carries. You guys all set?
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Oh, he didn't even this one. We have a guest.
We do have a guest.
She's gonna get, we're coming now.
Mr. David Kelly,
Oh, you-
you're up.
That would be me. I don't know where I'm supposed to say it or anything, I guess I'll just stand here. Yeah, my name is Dave Kelly. I have, my wife and I have been residents of LaPorte County for, well, going on 27 years now. We raised our daughters here and we found home here. We found a place where we could grow our family and everything else. So we enjoy it here and we want to stay as long as we possibly can. The reason I'm here today, and again, I'm not going to take too much of your time. As I said, we raised our family here. We had 2 daughters. Unfortunately, our oldest died of a brain aneurysm in September, and she is in Greenwood Cemetery. As you can imagine, we miss her more than you can imagine. And we had the idea of, well, she's in the chapel, and she's where the compartments are that are glass. I guess you're all familiar, right? And we wanted to bring flowers, but at the same time, we didn't want to leave flowers on the floor, leave them somewhere where somebody could, trip over them or something else, or just something like whatever. So we came up with the idea of maybe putting a little bud vase on the glass where her gravesite is. The original ones that I got were glass, and I didn't think that was such a great idea. But in talking with Denise and Roxanne, it has to be approved by you folks as to whether we can put something like that on the glass. I have found some that are plastic, and all we really want to do is make it, so it's not intrusive on anybody else's loved one, where they are or anything like that. This, I think, is only about 4.5 inches long. It's completely made of plastic, besides the cup that's on it. So, I mean, I know that you folks have your regulations about what you can have and what you can't have there. I did notice, in my short time going to the chapel, that a lot of people put flowers on the floor and things like that. And as I was, well, actually not me, but my youngest daughter was walking and looking at, the names of some of the other people, she kind of tripped over some flowers that were there. So, that was another thing. We thought, well, maybe if we had everything off the floor, that wouldn't be such an issue. But again, I don't know, what sort of regulations you have for that, or even if you approve something like this. But my wife we're there at least 2 times a week, and I'm sure we're going to be going there a lot more. And if the board sees fit, we would like to be able to put, well, at least on our daughter's grave, one of these.
Okay. As far as the president goes, I don't see anything wrong with it as long as the gentleman has knowledge that a vacuum seal may not last for very long. As long as you're aware of that and somebody can come in and take care of checking on it once in a while, we can vote on accepting this particular item.
I work only 3 blocks away from the cemetery, so I will go there.
Any questions from the supervisor?
We do have some concerns. I talked with Dave, our foreman out of Greenwood, and I have some pictures here too. Our concern is, well, first of all, Obviously, when I started last year, we went through all of the rules for the cemeteries. I went through them again, and I don't see any rules that specifically address the mausoleum at Greenwood. We have rules that specifically address Serenity Mausoleum on here at Swan Lake. And the rule that is written for Swan Lake says only crypt vases, and I know this is a niche, but it's the closest I could find, is only only crypt vases purchased from the cemetery will be allowed. No other decorations or crypt attachments will be allowed. So my next step was, and I talked to Denise about this too when I first found out about it, and I told her maybe if we can find something that's specifically manufactured for a cemetery niche or a crypt. So on the crypts, we do have brass bases that are permanently affixed. They're designed, they're sold by Matthews, which is the company that we buy our bronze from, and they're permanently attached to the outside of the crypt. So there's no chance of them falling off. They're securely attached. As far as the glass goes, we checked around. We called Matthews, who's our main supplier. They don't have anything that's manufactured specifically for that. They recommended that we don't attach anything to the glass. So I have some pictures here. And this is obviously in Greenwood Cemetery. In the mausoleum, we have glass walls on both sides of the interior. If you see the picture on the right, that's a close-up of one of the glass niches. Our concern is number one, those glass niches are maintained by the staff over there. So we're concerned that if we allow anything to be affixed to the outside of that glass, it makes it difficult for Dave to, you'll see it's a wall of glass, so it's a big job keeping that glass clean on all of those niches. Our concern, if we start putting things on there, it's going to make it difficult for the maintenance of those glass niches. It's very likely that if they're not securely attached, they'll fall off when he bumps them, when he's trying to Windex them down. Our other concern is, and this is a kind of a broader issue that's going to have to be addressed later in future meetings, because obviously we don't have specific rules for Chapel of Chimes or Greenwood Mausoleum, that we need to come up with rules, because what's happening now, when you allow one person an exception to a rule, then you have to allow for everybody. So if you look at the glass niches, they're 12 rows high. If we start allowing people to put flowers on all those, it's just going to be, it's going to make it difficult for maintenance. And then the other thing is, if we allow these glass vases, people are going to start putting stickers, because we've had problems with people putting decals, decorative decals on the sides of glass niches and the bronze niches, the covers. So that's what we're concerned about. And then, just getting off on a tangent here, but this is an example of what's going on at two of our mausoleums right now, and this was approved by the past superintendent, and that's why we're in the position where we are now, where we don't specifically have rules that prohibit this, but we don't necessarily like what's going on, because this is the new floor that was just installed at Greenwood, and now we have there are some artificial flowers laying there, but there's also a live rose, which is going to stain the new LVT flooring, if it's allowed to stay there. It also makes it difficult for them to do the floors, because they go in there and dust mop the floors every day. So what happens is, I don't know if I took a picture of the other wall. You can kind of see here, this is the other wall where we have the decorative items building up already. When we did the floor, we removed all of them, we didn't put them back, but people are starting to bring stuff back now. And again, the problem with that is maintenance. When we have to dust mop the floor there, all of that stuff has to be moved. Dave has to take a picture of everything that's out there, so we know exactly which niches they go back in front of. And as I said, the other issue with this is these are 12 high, so theoretically, if we prove it for one person, we'd have to prove it for the owners of all 12.
Well, then somebody would be
levels.
climbing a ladder to get
Well, that, and also,
Something
if we have 12 vases sitting there just for that one column of niches, we're gonna have flowers stacked out into the main floor, and it's gonna be hard to get caskets and roll the stands in there. So this is kind of off the topic, but this is why I would suggest that we come up with detailed rules that apply, they're uniform for all three mausoleums. But my recommendation that we would not allow anything to be affixed to the outside of the glass niches, just because of that. And then, obviously, we have an assortment of niches and vaults within the cemetery. We have, in this glass wall, you see the bottom three or bottom two levels are they're solid bronze, so obviously you can't see through them. One of the benefits of the glass niche is that you can put mementos and memorialize your loved ones within there, and we would suggest that people take the opportunity to do that if they do want to kind of create a eternal memory of their loved one. This is the perfect way to do it, to buy a glass niche where you can actually put stuff in there to memorialize them. We just don't want to see people starting to fix stuff to the outside of the glass, because that's kind of the benefit of having the glass niche, is that you can do that within the confines of the glass niche. So.
Is there an extra charge if they wanted to change out what was inside of that?
So we talked about that. I talked about that with Dave. We really don't want to get into the habit of like going in there and decorating for Christmas or Halloween, because you'll see on the corners of each glass niche are brass plates, or I'm sorry, a small glass plate with a brass screw that goes through it. We're afraid if we go in there, if we are going in there 4 times a year to change decorations, that they're going to get stripped out, or there's a chance we'll drop the glass and break it.
Okay.
I do sympathize with anybody that does want to put live flowers or any kind of flowers out there to, as kind of a memorial, a seasonal memorial, or for a birthday or that type of thing, but I think maybe we should look into coming up with some other way of doing that, or allowing the owners of the niches to, whether it be on the outside of the building, or we would recommend not doing that inside the building. And then, just for some reference, I researched the rules for other cemeteries. And this is from Franklin Memorial Park Mausoleum. It's hard to read, but you see there's two items here that specifically address the interior of mausoleum. The first one says, "To help maintain a dignified atmosphere and care for our marble and granite, we ask you to refrain from using tape, glue, wire, or adhesive of any kind on the crypt fronts." And then they also have a rule that says absolutely no live flowers are permitted in the mausoleum, no flowers on pots, on the floors, or sidewalks in and around the mausoleum, and no water in the vases. And then I think I had one more here. This one's really hard to read. No decorations are allowed on this is inside, outside, or on the mausoleum structures. They're all prohibited. So we're not unique in that we don't allow things to be attached to the crypts or niches. And like say for future reference, I'll probably recommend that eventually we adopt a rule like this that says nothing's to be placed in or on the outside of the mausoleum.
Is there any other, I mean, how many places did you research?
A few. I didn't want to take up too much time to put them all on here, but there are quite a few. And I'll give this example
I mean,
here.
I wonder if there's anything that's made that would, I don't know what, something.
Well, just as a recommendation or kind of a side note here, in our Serenity Mausoleum out here, we have one gentleman, his wife and his daughter just recently passed out there, and he wanted to put a votive candle in there. So we allowed him to install that votive candle on the outside of the mausoleum, and it's actually in the ground next to the sidewalk, and he seemed satisfied with that. It's a way of him still being able to do something when he comes out to the cemetery to express his, I guess, remembrance of his loved ones. So we have made accommodations for that, and I'm recommending that we try to find an alternative other than affixing anything to the glass.
If I may, make a suggestion. and I don't know if this has any, is gonna help or not, but they do make these with something that's affixed to the surface, whether it be glass or whatever, on a more permanent basis. I don't know if you want to do that, but it also, then the vials have a hook on them. Actually, this part has a hook on it, you just put the vial on top, so you can just lift it out anytime. They're all, I mean, whether you allow one person to do it, or if you're gonna do them all that way and say you have to have this type of vase, or, it can only be artificial flowers or whatever, I get that, I understand. Just trying to give you an alternative if there's something else that you might be.
But there's still the matter of cleaning the glass with all that stuff on there, no matter how it's.
I had in mind if it were, I mean, I don't know whether it exists. This is a side view, and I don't know whether there's enough on the metal there, but if something exists that would come out, I don't know that.
Fixed to the brass part, you mean?
Yeah, and come out so that they could clean them. I don't know, yeah. That was what I was thinking of, because you obviously wouldn't put live flowers in there, I'm sure, right? I mean, you were thinking, or were you?
I'm not very good with flowers. I would kill a silkworm, so.
I mean, I would think.
I think they're made for both, with just a little bit of water in it, but as I understand it, water is not allowed, so it would have to be an artificial flower.
But you're saying the level that those go up, it would require somebody to have a ladder. So the people at the top,
Yeah, obviously we wouldn't want any.
You know what I'm saying?
If the board approved installing anything on the front of any of the glass there, we would recommend that it be done by our employees.
Okay.
But again, that's not really our concern. We don't have a problem installing that stuff. It's just maintenance.
but if they're wanting to exchange flowers out,
We do
that
that.
becomes the problem.
Yeah, we do that.
I have a customer that comes in for every holiday, and I have one of the workers go out there because it's too high for her to reach.
Okay.
So she just brings it in, and of course I know the name because
Alright.
she does it every holiday, and we put them in for her.
Okay.
Any further recommendations?
I think we need further research. All right.
I'm just trying to think of a compromise. And I don't know how involved it would be. I wonder if any other mausoleum, if you, for instance, would be satisfied with, if there were some very attractive, I'm thinking, like in a church where they have the racks with the votive candles. If there was something like that with someone's name that you could, it wouldn't be actually on the niche. It would be somewhere appropriate. I mean, if that wouldn't satisfy, then we don't need to research it anymore, but.
This is all new territory for us, so.
Yeah,
Look
let's
into your
do it.
suggestions too. You guys may have something better than what we thought of, so.
Yeah. I'd like to research it some and see what we could do.
We can table it till next month and talk
Yeah.
over it.
See if we
See if we
can
can
come
come
up
up with an answer
with
that
something.
suits everybody, including our esteemed residents.
Exactly.
Okay, well, I want to thank all of you for your time today.
Okay,
For letting me
we'll
talk.
table this until next month, and you're welcome to come back. We should have a definite answer by then.
Yes,
So
sir.
hopefully we'll have it in.
Hopefully. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Alrighty. Everybody should have payment register, and that's bills presented for payment. And we've all reviewed this.
I forgot, is Keystone Cooperative the gas?
Welcome.
So there's 2 Keystone charges on here, they're
So
different.
Keystone supplies our
Yes,
our
we do.
our LP gas that heats all of our mausoleums. And they also supply our gas and diesel.
So you have like separate
Yes.
accounts for,
I believe so.
It's fine. You won't need to sit over here. She can sit there. Okay.
will we have more than the two Keystone in the future? Is it like separate buildings or
I see what
separate
you're talking about.
cemeteries?
So what happened here, and if you'll notice the dates,
Okay.
the things, you know, there's a batch from 12/27. What happened was, we wanted to use all of our budget out from last year, all of our line items. So the controller's office actually ran another batch for us, so we could get all those bills paid before the end of the year. So there really is not two separate charges.
Gotcha.
That's two separate bills.
It's just two separate
That's what that
documents.
is.
Thank you.
I have a question about Jeff Leniski payment.
So, I don't know if you noticed on the cemetery truck out there that I drive, had an opportunity on Facebook, I found somebody selling a toolbox for that. I do a lot of maintenance myself out here in the Greenwood, and I carry a lot of tools in the truck, so I found a deal on this toolbox for the truck. I've spent $275 on it. It's like a $3,000 truck cab. So it also has a ladder rack on it, so I can haul the ladder around when we have to get on top of the whips and things. So,
Great price.
Are we okay?
so what happens in that case is I paid the seller cash out of my pocket and then the city reimburses. Yep.
How about Roxy?
Oh, when I was on that?
Yeah, you're
Oh, that's for postage. When I go to the post office, get postage for both cemeteries, I put it under my name as a vendor, and then I get reimbursed.
okay.
Yeah, because we don't have an
You know,
account
that
set
I
up.
track them down.
All right. You're good.
Any other questions or comments on the payments register? If none, we'll vote to accept it. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? We're accepting the payment register as presented. Now we're going to move on to our superintendent's report.
All right, so our stats for December were as follows. 5 ash, 2 full burials, 2 entombments at Greenwood for a total of 9. Swan Lake, we had 3 ash burials, 5 full burials, and 1 entombment for a total of 9, for a total of 18 for the cemetery department. And while we're on the subject of stats, this is the year totals. As you see, December was about the same as November. Nothing really unique about last month. It was pretty average. And as far as our totals for each month, again, pretty average. Also put on here our totals for the year. It's kind of hard to read that, but they're condensed in this chart here. For Greenwood, we had a total of 60 ash for the year, 51 full burials, 6 entombments for a total of 117 interments. And then at Swan Lake, we had 46 ash, 74 full burials, and 10 entombments for a total of 130, for a grand total of 247 interments for our department for the year. So again, I don't really have stats for previous years to compare that to, so I don't know.
That was a question I was going to ask.
Yeah, so, but like I say, I've been keeping track every month, so as long as I'm employed here, we'll keep doing that so that we can go back to when next year comes, we'll be able to reference last year and see where we're at to see the trends. So, and then I'm also thinking that with our new software system, there may be some way of going back historically and maybe pulling stats for any burials like in 1947 or whatever. We can pull the year. I'm thinking there might be some way we can actually pull up once we get all the burial records entered and get that information. So. So I wanted to give the board a full accounting of all the money that we asked for last year. I think you guys deserve it, considering how much money we spent. Just want to show you that the full accounting to kind of give you an idea of where all that money came from and where it went. So put together a full accounting of our ARPA funds and the extension fund. And I can provide anybody that wants it a copy of the printed version too, because it's kind of hard to read here, but I'll go through this quickly. Back at the beginning of the year, I had asked the board to approve, I believe, $25,000 to buy some much needed equipment at the beginning of last year when I first took over. That included our lowering device, vacuum cleaners, our lawn roller, our wagon, floor jacks, that type of thing. So the board approved $25,000. These are the funds that were expended. We expended a total of $22,231.44 out of that first batch. So we have about $2,768.56 left out of that appropriation for that first $25,000. The carpet cleaner, I did not purchase that. Obviously, we've converted almost all of our flooring over to the LVT hardwood, so there's really no reason to buy a carpet cleaner now. I bought some mops, but those are a lot cheaper than a carpet cleaner. So, and then the only other thing I did not purchase yet was our tools, and I believe about $2,000 was appropriated for that. And still, I want to be sure what tools we need, so I have a year of experience now here, so I have a better idea of what tools I should buy, because I didn't want to waste money on tools that we're not going to use. So I still plan on using that. So obviously last year, the city council approved an appropriation of $150,000 in ARPA funding for us. Every cent of that has been spent, or at least encumbered. We still have some bills to pay for those purchases, but every cent is accounted for. We spent $31,400 on the new HVAC out at Serenity Mausoleum. I apologize, I can't read these numbers too well, but around $36,000 for our carpeting and art and flooring. Our SimSite software program was $49,030. The controller's office and the mayor suggested that we also encumber money to pay for licensing for an additional year for that software while we have the ARPA money. So we were able to use that ARPA money to extend our contract with the software developer until August 2026. Yeah, and that was at a cost of $6,300. And then at the last minute, we were told to spend the money before the end of last year, so we ended up buying a pressure washer with the remaining portion of that money. And then we still have the outstanding balance of $25,356, which will be paid to our contractor that we hired to install the new windows in this building when weather breaks in the spring. So again, we have zero balance on the ARPA money, so we got a good use out of that. Part of the requirement of the city council giving us that $150,000 was that this board matched that with $150,000 of their own extension money to fund sponsor additional repairs. So again, if you want a written copy of that, I'll be more than happy to print this out because it's hard to read on here. But pretty much of all the items that we use that money for, we spent about $76,469.37 of that $150,000 so far. So we have a remaining balance of $73,530, which we still have to spend on additional repairs.
And we won't lose that, right?
No, that's the extension fund is permanent.
Oh, okay.
It's a non-reverting fund, so it's nothing that we have to spend on the end.
Not on the ARPA side.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And then additional expenditures the board approved throughout the year. Obviously, we had some emergency repairs we had to do when our original furnace broke down here last January, I believe it was. We ended up spending $1,200 on our old furnace to fix that just to get it running through last winter. The Greenwood tree removal, when we had the large windstorm that rolled through in the summer, the board approved $4,500 to pay the contractor to clean up 2 trees. The Swan Lake pump repair, and this is just the cost that the first contractor charged us just to come in here and look at the pump and try to make repairs. They weren't successful in making repairs, so that cost us about $1,600. The Swan Lake, we had a backup here in the plumbing here, I think in December, just last month, so we had to pay a contractor $145 to come and fix that. So we spent $7,500, $71.47 on emergency repairs last year. And then these are additional items that weren't necessarily covered in the first appropriation of $25,000 or the $150,000 that was devoted to capital improvements. And these consisted of parts for our Kubota that we repaired back last January, I think, when we did that, equipment filters, parts for our wagon, a couple additional weed trimmers for our seasonal guys. We had to pay a $4,000 deductible for the hail damage sustained to our vehicles over at Greenwood, and then grease guns to service our vehicles. And then we also spent an additional $856 for the eye wash stations that brought us in compliance with OSHA. And then the other additional expenditures were the new tractor that we purchased for Swan Lake at a cost of $34,000. We purchased 2 new ash burial stands for a cost of $652.70, and those were the stands that we placed the ash containers on when we had a service out in the cemetery. And then when we redid the gravel yard out at the maintenance building here, we had to purchase additional gravel to do that for a total of $36,454. So for total, last year we spent $150,042.36 out of the extension fund last year. And we still, like I say, we still have about $73,000 left out of the $150,000 capital improvement, and about $2,700, I think, out of that initial $25,000. So I think our money was well spent. We got a lot of stuff fixed. When I first presented this in front of the city council last year, a couple of the city councilmen even expressed that they didn't think we were going to get all this stuff done, because originally I told them it was going to be around $200,000 to fix all this. And they said, there's no way you're going to fix all that for $200,000, but we still have a lot to go, but we spent our money wisely, I think. So.
You did well.
So the next item I have is credit card processing. I don't know if you're aware, but currently we stopped accepting cash unless it's an extreme situation where a person doesn't have a checking account, a credit card, that type of thing. But so the only thing we take pretty much out here is a cashier's check or a money order, right? Or personal checks too. So if you don't have any of those, then you're out of luck unless we decide to take your cash. So it seems more practical that we should take credit cards. Both here and at Greenwood, we have credit card machines that are tied into the Tyler software system that the entire city uses in the New World system. Unfortunately, that has never worked. Didn't work before I started here, still doesn't work. Our IT department can't get it working because our internet service is too poor out here and at Greenwood. Yep. So I talked to the city's IT director, Andy Matana. He suggested that we go to a system called the Square Card Processing. He said there's, I believe, 7 other city departments right now in Michigan City that are using that system within city government. The only downside is there's a charge to it.
It's about $10 a month.
I actually have another slide here that will break that down, because it's, I think, a little more than that. All right, so like I said, I spoke with Andy. He informed me that there's, for every charge that we put through the credit card system here, it would be a 2.3% additional charge that we would have to pay plus 10 cents. So 2.3% of that transaction plus an additional 10 cents. And then on top of that, there's a $60 a month charge. That would cover both cemeteries. In addition to that, for the hardware, the device that prints out the receipt, and then the reader itself, for both cemeteries, we'd be looking at a total of $2,146.78 for that equipment. So it seems steep to me, especially considering some of our transactions are anywhere from $5,000 to maybe $9,000. You're looking at a couple $100 that's costing us to process that. So number one, we have to decide if we want to accept cards, and I think it would be a good idea because it's very inconvenient for the public to have to go run to the bank and get a money order. So I think we should find some way to take credit cards. And number two, I think if we do decide to go with the Square device, that we decide to pass that 2.3% charge onto the customer. And I talked to the controller's office. I talked to the controller's office, and she says that's perfectly legal for us to do too. So I'm still doing research on this, but I'd like to get it going as soon as possible. So if the board would be willing to approve the expenditure of $2146.78 for the equipment purchase, so that before the next meeting, if we make this work, we can buy the equipment and get it up and running. And then second, the board would need to approve an additional 2.3% service charge for everybody that's using a credit card at Greenwood or Swan Lake. So
I make a motion, we approve each item.
I second that also.
I have one question. You said, what if we approve the equipment, what would there be in research for you? I mean,
well, I considering our meeting, we only meet once a month. If you do approve it and I do some more research, I just don't want to get into something where something pops up at the last minute and I think, well, I don't think we want to go with the system.
I mean, we're approving this, but if you find something better.
Correct.
Yeah, okay.
If I find something better, I will bring it back to the board.
Okay.
But if I don't, at least the money's been approved so that we can get this up.
You can get it, yeah, I got it. Thank you.
As I understand it, most of the companies that I do deal with credit card charges, they charge 3.5%. And that covers both the charge for the credit card usage.
Right, I did some research on my own on this too, and for the general public, it appears that it's the charge for the public, like if I had my own small business and I was using the Square device, that they would charge me 2.9%. And then based on, I think there's a factor of whether the card is scanned or if it's manually entered or something, it can be up to 3.5% that they charge you. So apparently, I don't know if there's like a government deal where the government gets a better rate because the 2.3 wasn't published on there, but that was what I was told by Mr. Botanic.
As far as I was concerned, it's like overall 3.5 for everyone would be quite fair and it's commonly done.
I think they have those little white adapters that you can stick inside of like an iPad. Do we have an iPad that we use? Okay, that's what I was going to say. That's the one that's usually about $10 a month, as opposed to the larger one. Plus, I know you're going to do your research, but there's a little box also that they can stick their cards in. So I was just thinking maybe if we purchased like an iPad with that adapter and then the person signs on the iPad and then it gets emailed to them as opposed to printing out a receipt. Just a thought.
Just about getting a situation where it turns from something personal from some employee into something that should be just for the business alone. We don't want any scams on our own business.
Well, I know this specific device, the device on there in the bottom with the signature pad and then the iPad type device that faces the operator so they can input the information.
Is this all wireless or is it hardwired?
I believe it is.
It's all wireless?
I shouldn't say that, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So would it work out here?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Botanic said it would. I believe it would have to be hardwired because I don't think you can put that information wirelessly without some kind of encryption. So I'll double check with Mr. Botanic and find out.
Okay.
And this would, when you use the card or whatever, this information goes to City Hall, right? The controller's office, it has to be hooked up, so.
No, it's not. That's why Mr. Botanic explained to me, and I think another IT employee explained to me that there is going to be an extra step for us. So when all the credit card information is placed in here and the transaction is complete, one of our employees will have to then enter that information into what's called our New World or Tyler cash checking system. So there will be an additional step, but I think the extra labor is worth it. Just our whole goal is to try to make things more convenient for the customer. So I think it's important that we try to find some way of allowing people to use credit cards, and we don't want to go to a situation where we're having to accept cash, especially when we're dealing with $5,000 to $9,000 transactions.
Okay, we'll need a motion to move forward with the B Square.
I make a motion that we move forward with the square.
I'll second that.
Excellent. All in favor of accepting this motion? Any opposed? Good. Motion passes. We'll move forward.
Just an update on the Greenwood fence. I received a quote finally from the contractor that came out and looked at our fence. As I stated during one of our last meetings, the company that manufactures that specific design of fence doesn't manufacture it anymore,
Right.
so we have to have it custom built. So there's a company that will custom build it, and it's similar to what we have, not identical, because there's issues apparently with the spacing of the pickets. They have to be at some kind of spacing so that a small child can't put their head in there and get stuck. So apparently ours current fence is not compliant with that, so they will not build that kind of fence anymore. So the spacing would be different. So I was quoted a quote for 6 panels because that would be the minimum that they would custom build. It was $3,600, so about $600 per panel. I just received that a couple days ago, so I'm going to forward that estimate to the insurance company that is handling the accident that destroyed a couple panels there last year in Tilden and Parker. So hopefully I can get them to pay for that, and at the same time, once they're manufacturing, I think we had 3 panels damaged at that time, then we might be able to pay for the additional 3 and get all, so there's a minimum of 6 that we would have to purchase, but if they don't come through either way, now we have a source where we can find something similar to that, so that when we continue to have people running to our fence, we don't have to wait for months to get an estimate. We have an estimate on file now, we can give that to the insurance company and get paid a lot quicker now, because it's been a long time trying to get those estimates, and this is the only fence contractor I found that was willing to go the extra mile and try to find somebody to custom build that for us.
Where are they located?
Stevensville, Michigan.
Oh.
Yes.
What is the size of a panel?
4 by 8.
Is the insurance company of the person that ran through the fence, they're taking care of the cost, right?
They said they would. It's been a few months since I communicated with them because we were waiting for this. But I already gave them the estimate. We had the monument company come in and give us an estimate for replacing the 2 headstones that were damaged. So I do have that. I gave that to them as soon as I got it, and then I just had to get this one to them, and then hopefully they'll get paid and get that stuff reimbursed to us. But again, once we get this, we'll have something on file for future accidents. Because we want to make it clear that one of my main priorities this year is to get that fence repainted at Greenwood. So regardless of what we end up fixing out there, it has to be repainted. So, and then the final thing, a flooring update. Last week they finished the flooring at Greenwood, the Greenwood office. and
Nice.
looks really nice. And at the same time, Denise, she had an old raggedy desk that was duct taped together back here. So we built her a whole new counter, wraparound counter here, so I think she's happy with that.
Nice.
So
Very good.
the whole office looks really nice, really professional. I'm glad we got that finished.
Very
Very
nice.
nice.
Very nice.
So our last building that we need floors in is the Chapel of Chimes out here, and I believe it's later this month, first part of next month, they're scheduled to come in and do that floor, and then we'll be done with all of the flooring, so. And then, I believe that's all I had on my agenda here. One other thing I wanted to add, there's some, again, with our swans, there's some issues with people going to social media and complaining about the treatment of our swans out here. I just want to assure everybody that we've done our research. We've been working closely with a swan expert, a breeder in LaPorte County who specializes in doing nothing but breeding swans. Because there were a couple times here lately when the weather got really cold and the ponds started freezing up where we considered taking them out. Number one, the swan breeder assured me that as long as we keep water open for them, that there's no need to take them out of the pond. They're happier out there. So the pond has remained open despite our cold weather. And then second of all, despite his insistence that we keep them out there, we tried ourselves to get them out of that pond because we have a really nice swan house now that's heated. We have a heated pool in there for them.
Wow.
We have a waiting pool.
Yeah, but we can't get them out of that pond. We've tried all our suggestions. We put lettuce out there, feed. They won't get out of that pond. I contacted the zoo, our local city zoo. They don't really, other than trying to entice them out with food, they don't really have any other recommendations on how we can get them out. So
Do you think they know it's there?
I think they're just happy because they never spent the winter out in the water before. They've always taken them out and put them in the small dog cage that we used to have them in. So I think they're just happy out there. But my plan is, especially with the cold weather coming up here this coming Sunday and Monday, I'm still going to try tomorrow to somehow get them out. But if not, the only other option is when if it does start freezing up to the point where they don't have any swimming space out there, they'll have to get out of the water, in which case we're pretty confident we can catch them.
Can they access it now, or do they have to be physically put in the enclosure?
Oh, it's ready to go.
I mean, but can they go there themselves? You know, like a horse would in there.
You're asking if the door's
No, they
open.
don't want to, that's the
Do
problem.
they
But
get
they
locked?
could, they
But
can.
it's open to them?
Yes.
Yeah,
Well,
They
no,
can-
it's not open right now, but
Oh.
it's in our fenced-in area around our maintenance building, but I can assure you they won't go in there on their own.
I believe you. I just wondered if it got cold enough, they'd have enough sense to.
Well, I know in past years, apparently, the way they would get them into that fenced-in area and eventually get them into that cage was that they would quit feeding for a couple weeks, in which case they would get hungry enough that they would come out and start searching for food, so. But I just want to show the public that they're not in any danger. They're a wild animal that are kind of bred for these kind of conditions. And as long as we have an open source of water for them that they can keep their feet in, their feet are what keep them alive because the heat from the water will travel up through them. So,
Did you respond in any way to?
no, I mean, I wasn't even aware of this until somebody brought it to my attention. I try to stay off social
It's
media.
on Facebook, is what you're saying. Like, what, do we know what sites or?
I just know that it was removed because I went to I did go to the Facebook site
Okay.
and it's been removed, I believe.
So it is apparent that they are smarter than we are about their personal care.
Yeah. So it's up to the board just to spread the word that
Yeah.
the swans are okay.
Yeah, that's right.
And you know, I've been coming out here even on the weekends. I've been coming out twice a day on the weekends when we have cold weather, just to make sure they're fed and to make sure that all of our pumps in the pond are working as proper and keeping the ice away. So, and I think other than that, that's all I have on my agenda.
Excellent. It's an excellent report. Hopefully we won't have any problems within the next month with the severe weather coming up.
Right.
If we do, our superintendent will care for it.
I do have a question about our computerized system, the burial records. Are those still being entered?
So that's a good question. I forgot to put that on there, but we just heard from our vendor, the software vendor, last week that they're almost done building the system. So next Thursday, Denise, Roxanne, and myself are going to attend a Zoom meeting in here with the company to start training on the system. As far as entering the records, the mayor has put me in touch with, the mayor and the intern director at City Hall have put me in touch with Work One, which has a new program that helps older adults. There's qualifications, you have to be over 55 years old, and there's also an income requirement, you have to be low income. But it's a program where Work One, I think it's Work One, provides the personnel, so they can provide an employee to come out here and they can work up to 4 years for up to 28 hours a week. So they'd pretty much be a full-time, part-time employee. But Work One pays them, so there's no cost to us for his labor. So we're pretty confident we're gonna get at least one of those employees.
Okay.
So we will have a full-time employee, or say a part-time employee, that will do nothing but enter our burial records. And then we're also hoping to get Isabella back in the summer. So we may have 2 people doing this, so.
Does Work One provide the training?
I don't believe so, because they put these employees in all different kinds of work conditions, so we would have to provide the training, but again, that could, if it happens soon enough, that person could sit in on these Zoom meetings with software vendors, so we can get them up and running pretty quick.
Do we have any idea how long it would take to complete?
I told the mayor that we're probably looking 12 to 24 months, maybe, and I think that might be ambitious, but, because we have over 40,000 people buried at Greenwood, and, what, 6,000 or 7,000?
Well, that's just burials, and then you have crypts, you have niches, you have, to put in.
It's a lot.
Any current information from the Veterans Memorials?
So yesterday, that we placed the order with the granite company, and we ordered 63 additional pieces of granite. That's in addition to the 15 that the Wall Gang donated. So between the Wall Gang and the Guardian Riders, we have enough granite to take care of all of the veterans markers that we have. It's about 8 weeks for them to produce the granite, and then hopefully when the weather breaks in the spring, we'll be able to start installing those.
Excellent. That takes care of most of the old business. Any further new business?
I just have a question. I noticed that this is a small detail, but on the PowerPoint, there's an emblem that's on there. Is that something that's just for the PowerPoint, or do we need to get that trademarked?
No, what I did was, so one of the things that we're trying to do is we're trying to get the employees on board to go to uniforms. So that everybody's uniform. I've seen all of, when I was researching cemeteries, I noticed that most cemeteries have a uniform that their employees wear.
Right.
So I don't know if you're aware, but years ago, the cemetery board approved a uniform allowance, clothing allowance for all the employees, $500. So I talked to all of our employees. Right now, I have 2 employees plus myself, because I also get the clothing allowance, but we've all agreed to forego our $500 clothing allowance. We're going to use that clothing allowance to rent uniforms from Cintas. And so we had to come up with a logo to put on there because they had to put a patch on there. So I had designed this logo here just myself, just so I had something to put on there. But more than likely, we're going to hold off on that. You're talking about this logo here. Yeah, I may still use it on stationery and things.
Okay.
But the city itself has contracted with advertising company or some kind of contractor who came up with a branding for the city. And as part of that branding was establishing a logo, a city logo, that's going to be put on all the city vehicles, clothing and everything else. So, but it's not approved yet. It's probably not coming until, I think, February. They were hoping to start using that. So I was trying to come up with something temporary to use in the meantime, but I don't know if we'll do that or not.
Okay.
I have a question. I was cleaning out old paperwork for my cemetery binder. Can I discard the information about removing roads, we're not doing that, right? Ever?
At Greenwood?
Yeah, at Greenwood. Or should I hold on to this?
Because you're the
I
green
think,
gal.
I haven't seen that, so if you want to, I'll take it, because I can use it if that ever becomes an issue about taking
Oh,
photos
yeah,
of, so, yeah.
Just keep it in
Yeah, we
file.
can keep it on file,
You don't have
but we
to-
don't have any immediate plans to remove any roads in Greenwood.
That was tabled as an oversight way long.
Well, I know, that's why I
Yeah.
wondered if I can toss this or,
No, Jeff can take it.
Yeah, you can
all right,
find it.
all right, thank you.
So we'll table it again. Sounds good to me. We have any other unfinished business? Think of anything. Big chance.
What about these?
You have to fill those out. There's a conflict of interest. If you
Yeah.
fill it out, then I'll
Yeah.
just take it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Comes down to being a annual requirement.
You gotta do that every year. Okay.
Okay, we'll move on to, the next meeting date is February 13th, 2025. And we do have a recommendation for adjournment.
I'll recommend that we adjourn.
Second. Okay, vote is, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Good, we're done.
Did you want me to tell everybody here